welcome to my knitting channel. My name is Monika and this is July Stash Down. I have made a few of these videos previously. Have I? No, I think this is my third video. And I'm going to try and stick to the format, though things might change a little bit. I'm going to go through what I made first, and then say how much yarn I used and how much I've gotten in. So I'm going to show both what I've knit and what I have gotten into my stash in July. So, but before we do that, I start with I'm going to tell you what I'm wearing in case anyone's curious. This is a self-drafted t-shirt. It's one of the first ones I ever knit. And yeah, it's made out of, the yarn is called Mjuk vårsög. I had to pull off my notes here because it's been more than a year since I knit it. The yarn label said it was bought at Coop, but I haven't been able to find this yarn afterwards. It's cotton. I think it's 100% cotton. There were no names on the tags, and I used like this light blue and light purple color. I also did try to make like a keyhole detail thing, but I keep forgetting to get something to close them up with. So instead of it laying nice and flat like this with like a hook or something, it kind of flops down like a very, very small collar. But I don't mind. It's one of the first things I knit, and well, not one of the first things I knit, it's one of the first t-shirts I knit, and it was before I had used any cotton before, so all of those weird little jogs and things are just because I wasn't familiar with yarn nor the things you have to do to keep the tension quite nice. But yeah, that's beside the point. I will start with what I have knit this month. In July I have 3 finished objects, and it was kind of a race at the end because the last Monday of July I had finished a single object, I think, and I was a bit stressed thinking maybe I shouldn't have a July stash down since I hadn't gotten any yarn in or out. Both of that changed this past week, so yeah. The very first thing I finished was my champagne cardigan. I still haven't blocked it, so it doesn't look its best, but that's beside the point. It's a Petiteknit pattern. It's knit out of acrylic yarn from Rusta, which I've had in my stash for at least 4 years. So I'm very happy that I have gotten some of this out of stash. Also a yarn that doesn't have any color names. It's just 100% acrylic, and if you look at the website before they discontinued this yarn, you could just choose light blue and you would get this yarn, or something similar but not quite the same, as if every dye lot was different. It was kind of funny. I had a different dye lot of this yarn. It doesn't even say the dye lots on the label, but I could tell that even though both of them were like light blue, they were very different. This one has some beige in it, and some white and grey, also with the blue, but a different yarn only have like blue tones. So yeah, that's the first finished object. 2 other finished objects are both pairs of socks. The first pair is a vanilla pair of socks. These orange socks are made out of Anita Strikketante in the colorway orange. Most of her colorways only have numbers, but this one was specifically orange. I have kind of concluded that I don't like vanilla socks, or at least not socks that are supposed to be right against my skin, because I don't like how the pearl bumps feel under my foot. Though I have recently learned of something called a princess foot, where you just knit reverse stockinette instead under the foot. Though I think I perhaps would have had to do that on the entire sock. Maybe I should just try to put them on inside out and see if I like that better, because then I know I can just knit a sock inside out and just what's called darn all the ends, weave in all the ends on the outside. But I mean, I don't think I've done a pretty bad job at weaving in the ends anyway. I would have woven them in a bit differently if I knew that was the case. But anyway, not a big fan of vanilla socks right up against my skin. Now that I have learned that, I know to focus my attention on only winter socks, socks that I use on top of normal pairs of socks. And that's the second pair. Okay, I'm just gonna put away these vanilla socks. I don't think there's anything more to say about them. Yeah. Last pair is also a pair of socks. These have not been blocked yet. I haven't bothered. There's gonna be a few months until I can wear them anyway. And I do have a few other sock pairs that I'm gonna wash anyway, and I was thinking I could just do them in a batch instead of doing them one by one. So yeah, these are my own design. It's the under the oak socks in two different colorways of the Alpakka Forte. It's Purpur and Melert. Melert, yes. This is a combination of colors that I didn't first think I would like, but I really love this combination. It is just really, really pretty. I don't usually like purple a lot, like on its own, but I figured I do actually like purple when it is like in clothing, and it is a color that suits me. I'm not a fan of the color, I guess. But yeah, I'm very happy with this pair. They fit well. It's the size I always knit for myself. It's the size small. Yeah, I don't have a lot more to say, I guess. I haven't done any modifications from the pattern. I did do a lot of modifications before I figured out how I wanted to have the pattern, which is why that now that the pattern is out and I have knit 4 pairs of these socks. One of the pairs wasn't for me. I haven't made any additional modifications. I love it. So yeah, that's the third finished item. Now, actually I think I'm gonna just say how much each of these projects used before I go into how much yarn I've gotten into stash. The champagne cardigan used 649 grams, which was a bit annoying because I was hoping to get more yarn out of stash, at least in that cardigan, but then again I didn't want it too long. I wanted it to be cozy and oversized and fit well in like an office environment, but not so big that it was unpractical. So I knit it as long as I wanted, and that happened to only use 649 grams. But the orange socks used 41 grams. Technically they used more, but when I weighed the skein afterwards, I had in my stash I did weigh exactly 100 grams. So even though the socks weigh approximately 10 grams more, that's what I'm gonna say they weighed to make the stash balanced, because I didn't weigh the skein before starting. I just knew it was 100 grams and didn't account for the fact that the weight fluctuates a tiny bit. So anyway, 41 grams for the orange socks, and for these striped socks, under the oak socks, it's 37 grams for the 37 for this purple color and 33 for the petroleum color, which means together they are 70 grams. This I also do believe weigh a tiny bit more than 70 grams, but that's what I had left off the skeins, and that's what I'm going off. Those are 50 gram skeins, so I wanted to make sure that the sum makes sense. So the leftover yarn is what counts as the weight of the socks out. Yeah, that was a complicated way of saying it. Anyway, that means that altogether I had 760 grams out this month. And I was so close to not having any yarn in. But on my sister's birthday, we all celebrated with cake and had a lot of fun. But her and her husband is in the process of downsizing a lot of their things because they're moving into a smaller apartment next year. And they do want to start now so they don't have to stress later, which is a very good idea. I do support that. But of course that meant that she wanted me to look through some of her yarn stash, and it's very difficult to resist yarn that you know are almost free, because you kind of give her a symbolic sum just so it doesn't feel like giving away her stash. So yeah, I chose this bag of yarn, which are 7 skeins. 7 skeins? Yeah, 7 skeins of this Drops babyalpaca, which is a mix of babyalpaca and mulberry silk, in 2 different colors. Two of the balls are kind of like a beigeish brownish color, and the other ones are light purple. And the reason I chose this bag of yarn was because I'm planning on knitting a few baby items. Both my sister, my sister-in-law, a friend of mine, and like there's a lot of pregnant people in my vicinity, and I was really wanting to knit up some baby knits for them. So yeah, I'm planning on knitting up a few, I don't know how to, like a body? That's not the proper word in English, but yeah. So I even bought some snaps to knit that, and I had then resolved this is all I'm gonna need, because I can knit 1 or 2, maybe even 3, because I have no idea how much yarn baby things take up. I was like, I can take this off your hands. I don't want any of the mohair, because I don't use mohair. And the other yarn, one of my other sister-in-laws, she was like, I can take that, I want that. So we were like, okay, perfect. But of course, my sister was like, but what about these 2? These 2 colorways are beautiful and they would look so good on you. And I'm like, but I don't use mohair. I don't like how mohair feels. And she's like, that's even better, because these are not mohair. I'm like, what? So yeah, it turns out these ones are 10% wool and 90% acrylic, which was like, okay, I can find something to use them for, I just don't know what. And I wasn't planning on taking them, but I wasn't kind of left any choice. So yeah, so these are 50 grams each, so another 100 grams in. And this is the it's Lollipop, soft, I guess. It says Lollipop soft, and the soft is inside this tiny little bubble, and it says a lot of yarn for your money. So yeah, I mean, that is true. I didn't pay for them, so. And that is the yarn I got in. So the 7 balls in this bag are 350 grams together, and this is 100 grams. So in we got 450 grams of yarn, which does mean that the total out of my stash this month is sadly only 310 grams. And then last month, we had a total of our stash, my stash, 27,535 grams, which means that now we have 27,225 grams. I'm very pleased with that, though I was really hoping to have more out of my stash, but I have also not been able to knit as much as I wanted during, well, not the last week, but the 2 weeks before that because of the heat wave. So all in all, summer knitting and not being able to knit as much as I usually would, I'm quite happy with the amount of knitting I have been able to do. And the amount of yarn I've actually gotten out of stash. So yeah. I guess that's all for today. I'm gonna have a new podcast video out hopefully tomorrow. A regular podcast episode. It depends on how exhausted I am after the first day back to work after my vacation. There's a lot of things happening. So yeah. I do want to get it out tomorrow, and I really do want to show all of my new cast-ons. Spoiler alert, I have a lot to show tomorrow. But yeah, all of the information about the project and the yarn will be in the description if you're interested. And hopefully I have remembered to put all the information on screen while I'm talking about how much yarn I've gotten in and out. We'll see. Thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you again in the next Stash Down video, or hopefully already in the next podcast video.